Chapter 2. Ralph had walked much further out the Harris Avenue extension than usual that day, possibly because thunderheads had blotted out the sun and a cool, if still sporadic breeze had begun to blow. He had fallen into a kind of trance, not thinking of anything, not watching anything but the dusty toes of his sneakers, when the 4:45 United Airlines flight from Boston swooped low overhead, startling him back to where he was with the teeth-rattling whine of its jet engines. He watched it cross above the old GS and WM railroad tracks and the cyclone fence that marked the edge of the airport, watched it settle toward the runway, marked the blue puffs of smoke as its wheels touched down. Then he glanced at his watch, saw how late it was getting, and looked up with eyes at the orange roof of the Howard Johnsons just up the road. He had been in a trance, all right. He had walked more than 5 miles without the slightest sense of time passing. Carolyn's time, a voice deep inside his head muttered. Yes, Carolyn's time. She would be back in the apartment, counting the minutes until she could have another Darvon complex. And he was out on the far side of the airport, halfway to Newport, in fact. Ralph looked up at the sky and for the first time really saw the bruised purple thunderheads which were stacking up over the airport. They did not mean to rain. Not for sure. Not yet. But if it did rain, he was almost surely to be caught in it. There was nowhere to shelter between here and the little picnic area back by runway 3, and there was nothing there but a ratty little gazebo that always smelled faintly of beer. He took another look at the orange roof, then reached into his right-hand pocket and felt the little sheaf of bills held by the silver money clip Caroline had given him for his 65th. There was nothing to prevent him from walking up to Hojo's and calling a cab, except maybe for the thought of how the driver might look at him. Stupid old man, the eyes in the rear-view mirror might say. Stupid old man, walked a lot further than you should have on a hot day. If you'd been swimming, you would have drowned. Paranoid, Ralph? The voice in his head told him, and now its clucky, slightly patronizing tone reminded him of Bill McGovern. Well, maybe it was and maybe it wasn't. Either way, he thought he would chance the rain and walk back. What if it doesn't just rain? Last summer it hailed so hard that one time in August it broke windows all over the west side. Let it hail then, he said. I don't bruise that easy. Ralph began to walk slowly back toward town along the shoulder of the extension, his old high tops raising small, parched puffs of dust as he went. He could hear the first rumbles of thunder in the west where the clouds were stacking up. The sun, although blotted out, was refusing to quit without a fight. It edged the thunderheads with bands of brilliant gold and shone through occasional rifts in the clouds like the fragmented beam of some huge movie projector. Ralph found himself feeling glad he had decided to walk, in spite of the ache in his legs and the steady nagging pain in the small of his back. One thing at least, he thought, I'll sleep tonight. I'll sleep like a damn rock. The verge of the airport, acres of dead brown grass with the rusty railroad tracks sunk in them like the remains of some old wreck, was now on his left. Far in the distance, beyond the cyclone fence, he could see the United 747, now the size of a child's toy plane, taxiing toward the small terminal which United and Delta shared. Ralph's gaze was caught by another vehicle, this one a car, leaving the general aviation terminal which stood at the end of the airport. It was heading across the tarmac toward the small service entrance which gave on the Harris Avenue extension. Ralph had watched a lot of vehicles come and go through that entrance just lately. It was only 7 yards or so from the picnic area where the Harris Avenue old crocs gathered. As the car approached the gate, Ralph recognized it as Ed and Helen DePinot's Datsun, and it was really moving. Ralph stopped on the shoulder, unaware that his hands had curled into anxious fists as a small brown car bore down on the closed gate. You need a key card to open the gate from the outside. From the inside, an electric I-beam did the job, but the beam was set close to the gate, very close, and at that speed the Datsun was going. At the last moment, or so it seemed to Ralph, the small brown car scrunched to a stop, the tires sending up puffs of blue smoke that made Ralph think of the 747 touching down, and the gate began to trundle slowly open on its track. Ralph's hands relaxed. An arm emerged from the driver's side of the window of the Datsun and began to wave up and down, apparently haranguing the gate, urging it to hurry up. There was something so absurd about this that Ralph began to smile. The smile died before it had exposed even a gleam of teeth, however. The wind was still freshening from the west, where the thunderheads were, and it carried the screaming voice of the Datsun's driver. "You son of a bitch, fucker, you bastard, eat my cock, hurry up! Hurry up and lick shit, you fucking asshole, cunt lapper! Fucking booger! Rat dick, ring meat, suckhole!" "That can't be Ed DePinot," Ralph murmured. He began to walk again without realizing it. Can't be. Ed was a research chemist at the Hawkins Laboratories research facility in Fresh Harbor, one of the kindest, most civil young men Ralph had ever met.